Transmission is go. Underbase is live.
Hello ladies and gentlemen and welcome to the Underbase. My name is Adam, 88M, and we're back with Transformers issue 40, Combiner Wars Part 2, The Possible Light. And as you join us in the final hours of Adam's life, we gather together to remember the great man.
Can I have his stuff?
Yes, you can. It's all for sale.
Well, if you're dead, I'm not paying for it. I'm just nicking it.
I still function.
Wanna bet?
Turnbull.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is the mark of a professional podcaster. When you can start coughing, then not only turn it into a Transformers reference, but then introduce the other guest at the same time. So, hello, Mr. Turnbull, how are you?
I'm doing well, yourself?
I'm very, very good. Hello, Gruffy, are you still with us?
Just about. Some coffee went down, and I couldn't get to the mute button fast enough.
Okay.
Due to coughing and dying and lying on the floor.
This is a sacrifice that we make to you, dear listener, in our regular podcasts. So, Transformers issue 40, The Possible Light, written by John Barber, story by Megrid Scott and John Barber, art by Livio, letters by Tom B. Long, and editor is Carlos Guzman.
I'm sorry, letters by who? What?
Tom B. Long?
Tom B. Long!
Is he getting a theme song now?
He's had a theme song since Beast Hunters.
Yep. Well, Gruffy gave him a theme song.
Well, I'll have a word with Mr. Long and see if he's happy for us to play it to him at some point. We'll get together a mega mix. So anyway, gentlemen, we have 3 covers.
Tom B. Long.
I can see now what Dave has to put up with, but I will though, John. Cover A is Ironhide auditioning for Superman in the next DC movie. He's failing, by the way, because he's far too chipper and bright, along with Circuit and Longtooth, lines by Casey and Joanna's on colours. The subs cover is Livio doing big robot goodness. The cover fits together with Windblade 2 because Livio isn't a fan of small images when a glorious Battle Vista will do. The retail incentive cover is Hasbro's Menasor image, lines by Marcelo and colours by the Canadian Volta team, which includes Sarah Petra Durocher. So, Gruffy.
Hello.
Which of these covers do you like the most?
What you should have said there, which of these covers featuring Longtooth do I like the most?
Yeah, that's true.
Because there's only one answer to this one. Because it's Longtooth. And Longtooth is amazing. Plus, it's a really nice picture. I quite like it's bright, it's colourful, it catches the eye. You've got tons of stuff going on. You've got loads of character going on in Ironhide and Circuit's face. Plus, Longtooth. And look at him. Look at Longtooth. Don't you love Longtooth? Support your local Longtooth donation place. Go on. Go and adopt yourself a Longtooth. A Longtooth is for life, not just for Christmas. It's Longtooth.
Andrew, do you have any pathological love of a particular character on this issue's covers?
Of course I do. For Longtooth is the precursor to the Daily Stracks out of the Daily Longtooth many years ago, when I did the strip to really just wind up Ralph, who hates Longtooth because he's beady-eyed apparently. So yeah, it's the Longtooth cover. It's an absolute slam dunk. Again, it is a really good cover, and I love the Sunbow-tastic scale that now Devastator's massively big. His tyre has gone from, construction type vehicle size to, well, the size of Optimus Prime by the looks of it. Brilliant.
I have to admit, in terms of the covers, none of them grabbed me for this issue. I think it's mostly because none of them feature anything which is actually inside the issue. That's never been a problem before because there's usually one cover that represents what you've got inside. But, from the Casey cover, I thought, oh great, it's Devastator's coming in and it's all going to be kicking off and Ironhide's going to save the day, and new. So if I had to go for one, I'd probably go for the incentive. because I really like the colouring style that they've done. I've seen the lines from Marcello and they're all right, but the colours really give it some oomph, and I think it's quite a nice promotional image.
It is. It reminds me a lot of the type of thing you'd see on the front of a Marvel UK annual. It's got that kind of feel to it, that kind of look. But unfortunately, there's no Longtooth on it.
Exactly. Needs more Longtooth.
Yeah.
And also, there's no stake games inside, and there's no story featuring paddles.
There is no paddles in this issue. This makes me sad.
Or the kangaroo.
Yeah, yes, I have been doing some research before I did this review with your fine self.
We have a list of what will become the perfect issue of Transformers, formerly known as RID. Longtooth has now been added to the list.
Oh dear, with Scrange on the cover, I know the score.
No, because Andrew will just try and kill him off again.
No, he won't. No, I've got a plan for that.
It's alright then.
It involves blackmail, it involves Nick, it involves alcohol and AA.
Solid.
Cool. So, previously, across various Transformer titles, having captured the enigma of combination, which allows multiple Cybertronians to form together, Cybertron's ruler, Starscream, conspires to choose between various fashionable alt modes, before Prime rudely informs him that Metroplex's space bridge has been activated. This is no news to Screamer, as he secretly sends Swindle and the Stunticons, combined into Menasor, to the just-discovered colony of Caminus to attack. The colony's barely surviving, low on energon. Menasor is having a great time. Unfortunately, finds little of the stash that he thought would be there. Fortunately, Starscream decides to turn on his allies at this point, sending the aerial bots, now combined into Superion, to the rescue, prompting lots of statements made in grave, serious tones, backed up with fists the size of houses by the freshly restored aerial bots. They combine, they kick Menasor's butt, and Swindle and the others, quickly subdued, Caminus survives. Screamer aims to utilize the new colony as a first step to creating a new Cybertronian empire for himself. He is about as subtle as Angry Birds Megatron, and amazingly, it looks like Starscream's plan is actually working, until Caminus' spiritual leader greets former Autobot commander Optimus Prime as a savior. It's kind of embarrassing. The Mistress of the Flame rocks up, Prime plays peekaboo with the Matrix, which has still not been explained to me, and citizens bow down in front of Optimus. Meanwhile, in deep space, Rodimus, captain of the starship Lost Light, sends a representative homeward, and believe me, whoever they are probably glad they're going home.
Did anybody else read the previously this time round in Vince's voice? I was going to say Vince DiCola, that's not right.
Victor Caroli.
Victor Caroli, that's the one I'm thinking of. For some reason, the way this is written really reminded me of Victor Caroli. It is the year 2015, having captured the enigma of combination, which allows multiple Cybertrons to form together.
I have to admit, I had McFeely's Batman intro voice.
I'd just have my Alpha Trion Brown Crayon voice. But Starscream then turning on his allies, sending the aerial bots, combining to Superion to the rescue. While Swindle and the others quickly subdued, Caminus survives.
It's good to know. So, the roll call for this particular issue: Optimus, Wingblade, Mistress of Flame, Starscream, Rattrap, Scoop, Ironhide, Chromio, Wheeljack, Superion, Menasor, and Swindle. Apologies, guys. I'm already starting to realise that you're probably going to complain bitterly about the lack of Longtooth in the crew manifest.
Repeatedly.
Yes.
It's fine. It's fine.
I'll cope. Somehow.
Just taunt us, break my heart. That's fine.
Be strong, Adam. Oh, there we go. Oh.
I won't be able to edit most of this out as well. You know that.
Yep.
So, guys, what did you think of Wingblade? What did you think of the story so far?
It kind of... Windblade kind of answered a couple of the big criticism we had about the first part.
Yep.
Because, again, the problem is obviously reviewing it on an episodic basis when what appears to be either out of character or very stupid decisions, which will pay off longer term, make sense as a whole. But when you're reading it as a one-off, again, we kind of talked about how Starscream kind of flip-flopped from amazing political operator to thick as two shot planks
Yep.
in the space of a few pages. Now, pays off in that where it's quite clear he's fed Swindle the line, which we knew he had. There's still the obvious thing about when Swindle rats him out, is anyone going to believe him? That's still kind of a little bit... like, great art as always. Again, the Matrix, isn't it empty? What was that? Just light shining off it or light bursting from it?
Yeah.
That
That's the big outstanding, isn't it?
needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Something about him being this as a some flame. Is there something about her that whatever this flame is that again the old Marvel UK fan of me or Marvel it's the Matrix flame?
Yeah.
Is that something, a little nod to that perchance, that the Matrix isn't just in sort of one location or one particular embodiment? So is he going to get a top up at the end of this?
Could be, actually, yeah. I like that, because I did think the Mistress of the Flame, I mean, we've seen the similar, Flame Guardian back in Target 2006, and I thought that's got to be a reference, but I take nothing for granted when Barber's involved, because as we'll see in this issue, he's bringing in stuff from comics we never would have thought would have been relevant this far down the line.
Yeah.
Scary. So, folks, we start off with the aforementioned Lost Light shuttle, blasting its way back to Cybertron. On board, First Aid Groove, Hotshot, Streetwise, Blades, and a mystery patient. Ooh. And Streetwise has already assigned this group the title Protectobots, because they contain a doctor, a cop, a firefighter, an infiltration expert, and a flyer. That was Streetwise's second group suggestion name. Unfortunately, the copyright for the Village People was already taken. The patient is in stasis lock, suffering from nightmares due to a cranial condition, and the panel gives us an image of the patient. It's Mirage. Now, this isn't the first time this has happened, that Mirage has had a disturbing image. Images that he has clearly sought help for. Yet John Barber wins 10,000 continuity points for making Spotlight Mirage relevant. Staggering stuff.
I have waited an eternity for this very moment.
Yeah, because I think we've name-checked Spotlight Mirage a couple of times throughout the reviews, kind of when we've been talking about sort of some of the things that have been not mined or touched yet, and we kind of said that's the one that probably won't ever get touched. Okay, so we were wrong.
Now, Mirage had seen himself wearing the wrong sigil, and while Autobot Megatron's presence now makes that seem kind of a prophetic thing, the fact that Mirage then spoke of Cybertron burning in a recent unconscious mutter means that the bots decided to bring Mirage back to Cybertron with them. Inside Mirage's cranium, we get a glimpse of what he's seeing. It's a burning landscape. He's there to help Prime, joined by an Ironhide who seems similarly confused to be there, just in time for creatures resembling combiner figures to rise up behind them, only to burst into flames. At the same time, Mirage's chest appears to flame as well, where his symbol is. Any Marvel UK readers will recall Buster Witwicky's Matrix vision of the G1 combiners in Special Teams, following a kind of similar path, which is nice. But we cut back to a shocked Autobot's eyes. It's not Mirage, though. It's Ironhide. Ironhide, who's apparently let Prime crash at his whilst he returns to Cybertron, CTF punishment, but Ironhide has had that same dream as well. Looks like they're both having the same vision. But with Prime worrying his pointy aerials off about everything that happened in TF punishment and the events around Starscream, he decides not to tell Prime about this, which is a bit odd because Ironhide hasn't made much of a secret of the other visions that he's seen previously. So, guys, we start off with Protectobots, Visions, and Flamey Cybertron. Andrew, all good so far?
I'm enjoying it. I do like the daft name of the Protectobots. It's like the A-Team, which is kind of would have said. I do like, again, the art that Olivia's done for the Fiery Vision is fantastic.
Yep.
I do like when you get a dream state where it does look properly off kilter or properly not right. It's well done. It's really well positioned. Again, yeah, but Ironhide, why is he sort of covering up? Is it just, again, because he knows what Prime's got to cope with at the moment? It's like, is he going to think I'm mad?
Yeah. But then again, it's Ironhide. I mean, he's done enough weird and wonderful stuff. He should be allowed to be at least eccentric and get away with it.
Well, he is like the oldest of the old bar cup, so yeah, they factor in. It's like, yeah.
I just love the fact that Prime is crashing on his sofa. Optimus Prime has become a mature student.
Yeah.
Of life.
Gruffy, what do you think?
I think there's a lot of interesting things going on here. I love the idea that Mirage and Ironhide are both having the same issues.
Mm.
What blows me away here is the idea that Ironhide and Mirage are not only having the same vision, stroke dream, stroke hallucination, but they're actually communicating to each other through it.
Yep.
I really like that idea. It's that sort of otherworldliness that I think has crept into IDW over the last 10 years, which I think is a very good thing. Sort of, not mysticism as much, because once you've got the spark involved, then there's a lot of mysticism involved with the Transformers. But having that sort of extrasensory issues, I think, term, something you don't expect from robots, basically.
Yeah.
It's something that's very fleshy.
It is interesting that neither of them actually knows the other one is the real article.
Yeah.
Ironhide treats Mirage as a figment of the dream, and Mirage obviously treats Ironhide like the figment of the dream.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite nice that we know obviously it's not, but they don't. So that revelation will come obviously when Ironhide finds out that Mirage has touched down on Cybertron. So, cock.
Which he actually says.
Yeah.
Probably nothing. Tell you what, unless Mirage shows up, let's say it's a bad dream.
I wonder if it's got anything to do as well with their interaction in All Hail Megatron.
You have to remind me I've bleached my brain of All Hail Megatron.
Well, the only thing of note when it comes to those two is the fact that Ironhide thought Mirage was the traitor. And Ironhide was goading with a tiny bit of physicality in that he tried to rub Mirage's Autobot symbol off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mirage kind of went with that barely there symbol for a long time as an almost statement that he was innocent. He knew he was innocent, but at the same time he was conflicted. And that was where his dreams seemed to stem from, that action. So if it's got anything to do with that, that's good, because it makes another part of All Hail Megatron relevant. So that's another couple of people down. Now, let's see if we can just work on maybe getting Sideswipe relevant.
Sideswipe, Chaos.
Spotlight Wheelie.
Spotlight Wheelie's been touched on.
Not until I get my Quintessons and Sharkticons. It's quite clearly who was the planet. That was the symbol. Come on.
My favourite thing here is the very last sequence of this open page. This is Circuit coming to you live and direct from the Icon News Service. Rumors and speculation continue flying. Unconfirmed reports suggest contact has been made with a long-lost Cybertronian colony. And moreover, the colony has been invaded by a rogue Decepticon combiner. Artist rendition.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, but that's amazing.
I was going to talk about this because for the rest of this year, writing this review out in notes, the biggest challenge for this issue is that almost every page, the bottom quarter of it, is put over to this live feed. So folks at home, it's like a live feed from a broadcast. It's very much the sort of Dark Knight Returns Frank Miller. Here are some talking head shots running through the bottom of the screen. And they are telling a story which you can read across both pages, or you can read an individual page, and they give you a completely separate point of view to the characters. And at certain points, it ties in beautifully. But what do you guys think about this tool? Because they use it heavily in this issue. And then also, what do you think about the layout of the page?
I like it. I do like a dual narrative on a comic page. It's very difficult to do well. And again, the talking head TV thing, as you said, Dark Knight Returns is probably where it's at its best in terms of all the TVs and stuff, before Frank went a little bit horse crazy. No, it works.
McFarlane is the worst version of it.
Move on. Sorry, Andy.
Yes. It is indeed. Spawn. No, it's really well done. The artist rendition is genius. It's just it's just absolutely daft and incongruous because, I mean, these are robotic creatures. Surely someone could extrapolate a feed from a memory or from their own thing, but it's just like, no. And you've got the idea that there's just somebody in a room somewhere just going, the combiner. I've heard loads of random comments and just put it together. Brilliant. It's genius. It's a good way to do it. And
I really want to know who drew the artist rendition, both in universe and actually drew it, because I would like to shake both the fictional and real artist's hands for this amazing piece of work. It's so good.
It is genius.
Oh, I love the little clay dude too running away.
Just like the putty creatures, to be honest, as this and giant shades of like Iron Man and Galactus with depths of it. It's the fact that it's so absolutely sort of half-assed, like a proper artist rendition is sometimes when you see them. It's like, oh, here's an artist impression of the monster.
Oh, I love it. I absolutely loved it.
I do like as well the fact that they then show Devastator, and it looks like, and I don't know if this is artistic license or just the fires from the last the last time that it appeared, but its head is in shadow.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's purposefully done to cover up the identity of the head.
Because it is quite clearly Prowl, because you can just there is enough left, you can see the red horns on the front of the head there.
Yeah. Now, from a layout point of view, the only thing that slightly rattled me is because they sometimes have more than one person speaking on a particular block. So on the pages, the section devoted to the feed is sort of different sizes. It doesn't run across the page. But I don't know if that was even something that you guys picked up on, or if you were just like, no, it's fine. It's probably just me.
No issues with that. Yeah.
It's me. That's 1 point down for Adam already. Dave, this is what happens when you leave. I tell you.
It's good that, again, we'll kind of come to it later on, that they color code the text as well. So the kind of the rather sort of the sort of white gradient background, just quite nice that we get a different color for every character speaking. So it's a nice shorthand cue. Just because.
I do wonder as well whether this has anything to do with the sort of stuff that Tom was doing on Monster Motors, because that was the first comic in a while, especially from IDW, where I'd seen it was the Terry Pratchett mode of text, where every character had a different font in that 2-issue series. Everyone had a different coloured speech bubble, so you were able to get the gist of what everyone was saying, even if they weren't on the panel, because you had the colour coded to a particular character, the font coded to a particular character. And Tom's already done that once on that series. The fact that the colours and the text are changing here, yeah, that might be a thing that we see more of. So it should be good. So anyway, on Cybertron, Team Prime are busy moving through the city. They're a mixed bunch. It consists of Prime, Ironhide, Starscream's only friend, we think, Wheeljack, and Windblade, who's retained an innocence still in her faith in law and order despite the events of her own miniseries. But the populace of Cybertron are busy hearing about the discovery of a colony and a rumoured Gestalt attack. The location of Devastator is known. Monstructor, they're unsure about. And Cybertron saw the aerial bot's fate vividly. They couldn't miss it. But they think that he's still in apparent stasis lock. Obviously, we know that's changed. The presenter is a bot named Circuit, and he's in front of the main government building as Starscream turns out to make a speech. In typical fashion, Screamer's first comment is basically, "How good do I look?" before informing folks that they've discovered the first of the lost colonies. And yes, I think, Andy, you said last issue, anytime, it doesn't matter if it's 13 colonies or not, as soon as they say colonies, I get the old 1980s Battlestar Galactica theme going off in my head. So, and that Screamer also adds that a permanent space bridge connection has now been set up, all the while ignoring Wheeljack's corrections to his speech and what I take to be a Kamian representative who tries to say hello. And oh yes, by the way, everyone, remember, Screamer is your chosen one. Good to know. The attack by the Decepticons in last issue is now being written off as a first contact mission gone wrong, and it was thwarted due to Superion, who has now suddenly appeared behind Starscream. He's noted as a safe combiner, a safe weapon that serves Starscream, Cybertron, and Caminus, and there is no surprise about the order that Screamer says that in. It's not exactly subtle here. But Screamer's big moment is undermined by a colony representative who assumes that Prime is in charge of all of this. Barely swayed, Screamer responds that Prime follows his lead and that the former Autobot leader is heading back to Caminus to help out with the situation there shortly. He even invites Circuit to go with them. It's a road trip. Andrew, apart from the fact that he's kind of turned up out of the blue, Superion is kind of being used by Starscream as his as another way maybe to push himself as the chosen one.
It's the thing I got from it was that again the language is the safe, friendly combiner. It shades of 80s American politics. It's Reagan's Star Wars. It's, here you go. Our nuclear weapons are his service. There is a very pointed sort of undertone to it. It's like nope, and even stretching to obviously modern politics with various deterrent weapons and the like, because obviously that's what Starscream's positioning Superion as. He's a deterrent, which as we all know works so wonderfully well. It's brilliant that he can't. Again, we've talked about him being quite a smooth political operator, but ultimately would always be betrayed by his ambitions. It's kind of we ragged on it a lot during the course of formerly known as RID. And here, the Order, he can't help but the more smart and absolutely savvy one would have said Cybertron, Caminus, and would have left me out. But he's constantly having to associate. And you get the feeling he knows his position's tenuous at best. And he's doing everything he can in the short term to just kind of go, look, I'm at the heart of everything. I'm at the heart of all that's right. I'm ultimately responsible for it. I am the light and I am the way. So ultimately it's going to come tumbling down around his head.
The longer they keep it going, the longer he's in power, though. And I think the better it gets, because you've got the likes of Prime, who just, right from the off of this, he's being subservient. He's following the rule of Starscream. Nobody apart from, I think, Windblade can believe that he's doing this. And it's almost like he's just stood there, hating the fact that Starscream's going to trip up, hating the fact that it'll probably be something to do with him, but at the same time knowing that if he does stand there, Starscream will just put his foot in his mouth.
Yeah, you can tell he's bridled through the role he's forced to do, because obviously he was kind of portrayed as the sort of unwilling leader a lot of the times. It's forced into the role, and here you can see him from the urge to go, I am the right person at this point in time, but knowing full well that there's still he's associated with one half of the war, and it's if he was to sort of force his way to power, the war starts again overnight, and is an even more bitter and pathetic shell of it. So he knows it's obviously Starscream is going to drop the ball, but the reason he's there, and again, it's you get annoyed sometimes when other characters can't see it. It's why is he doing it? Because if he doesn't, it's going to be a lot worse. He can at least mitigate the damage if he's involved in it, and then when eventually it does go Pete Tong, he's in a position to do something about it decisively.
It's the lesser of the two evils, so to speak.
Yeah.
It's how the chaos of Starscream as a figurehead. And isn't that what all politics are based on?
Yeah.
Welcome to the general election edition.
Oh, yeah. Vote now, vote often.
I know, I quite like the idea of somebody from UKIP standing up. This new body of mine represents a new era for our world. Everything today changes. No, it doesn't. Get out, UKIP. Go on. Start off.
Now, one thing that I should probably state is that on the Underbase, we're not going to suddenly start getting political and telling you who you should and who you shouldn't vote for. Okay?
Vote for me.
And I would never ever say that if you do wish to vote for UKIP, I'd rather not have you listening to this show. That would be terrible. That would be absolutely abhorrent.
Are you saying
do that?
You'd be a horrible person if you said, if you voted UKIP, you're a bibbling moron who should put his face in the nearest wood chipper.
No, I would absolutely not say
Is that what you're trying to...
No, absolutely
That
not.
would be a horrible thing. And you would never say that.
No.
You would never say, go and drink the nearest bottle of bleach, you bibbling moron. You'd never say things like that.
No, and I think we can all be relieved that I've not.
You're the model of decorum and restraint, Adam.
Thank you.
I'm glad to say that we have on the show 3 people who would never say things like the lines of, you will vote UKIP, the best thing I can hope for you is a accident involving a lawnmower. I'm really, really glad that none of us would say things like that.
None of us would wish impending horrible leaky anal death to anyone who voted for UKIP. No, I mean, that would be dreadful. What kind of person would wish that?
Yeah, horrible people. Horrible people.
I know.
Anyway, meanwhile...
Should have done a better
UKIP was the first representative of these lost colonies.
From
politics.
a fictional argument about a fictional party, we head back to our fictional comic, and the team head through the space bridge, and are met by the Mistress of Flame, who questions why on earth Prime is there, and also why Prime is following and not leading. Prime's humble response makes for an awkward situation, compounded by Flame's gushing comment to the reporter about him. Prime practically squirming to get out of this. Honestly, we just need the Camian version of Batman to turn up, and we have a perfect Dawn of Justice plot. But Prime heads off to work, blind to how sacrilegious his talk has been. Regardless of what we might find out later on, his talk is offending people. And it's offending people that he's not then setting right. So this could come back to bite him in the butt. Lots of politics here. And I had to wonder as well, will Prime cause the sort of issues that we saw in the Monstrosity Autocracy Primacy series? You know, this is a quite unsure Prime. But from there, we jump straight back to Earth's orbit and to the Arc 7, where Team Prowl and Jetfire are taking a break, pondering a newly acquired space bridge that they grabbed from Onyx. Prime takes a call and gets really, really hissy. Everybody backs away. Nobody says anything. And yes, everyone has noticed his increasing attitude these days. Back on Caminus, Superion wonders if Prime does not trust Starscream, which, shows that Superion obviously isn't the smartest of foes. But Circuit witnesses the other bots arriving to help the relief effort. Now this next page gives us more insight. We're getting more insight into Superion himself. For a start, the Combiner states that he will kill Starscream if he's found responsible for the attack on Caminus. Just kill him. That's it. Boom. Dead. Optimus also tries to get a bead on how a combined mind works, assuming that he's talking to mostly the torso personality of Silverbolt, which he's not. And Superion informs him that he feels whole and complete in his current form. He also says that Prime doesn't understand this. Prime says he might. I don't know if he's talking about his matrix or about, something that might involve him becoming a combiner component at some point. We dread to hear. And as Superion says that he now feels whole and complete, where he was unsure in his previous form, we can gather that that whole and completeness is surely due to the addition of Alpha Bravo, who is everyone's favourite aerial bot. Now, I think Alpha Bravo is a valid member of the aerial bots because he brings a different element to the team. I.e., he won't get there if they all charge off. He will take forever to get there. But if they need someone to actually stick around in one place and guide the rest of them in, or observe, or actually act as coordination whilst they're all flying around doing other things, Alpha Bravo is your man.
Or, if you've got a lot of people doing the first strike, just to get people's attention, just to wake them up, and then all of a sudden you hear just out in the distance, as the one aerial bot who turns up with more weaponry than the entirety of the first Cybertron Light Brigade.
That's what you need.
You need Alpha Bravo.
You need Alpha Bravo.
Basically, you need to have a character who's going to scare the crap out of people, and that's Alpha Bravo. He's going to turn up, and he's going to help you with all of this.
I
freaking love Alpha Bravo.
Along the bottom of these 2 pages here are the various rescue workers turning up. Ironhide having a dig at the cons, making friends with the city speaker, whilst the other with the 2 Tankors summing up the cons' response. The fat version of Tankor, poor old fat Tankor, is bitter and moaning about his lot. The tall Tankor, however, starts spinning the message for the new folks. Now, amongst the cons, there is some vague chap called Sparkstalker, who I believe you might know him, Gruffy.
You don't know how cheery it makes me to see Sparkstalker turn up, and it looks like he's just pushing Tanker out the way. All the time.
Well, he's looking a mite beaten up after the events of Punishment, which only happened obviously a day or so before, and he's the only one of his team there because of the events of that issue. But there's also as well the animated character of Lightbright, which I would like to assume that's the bot and not a sentient version of the Light Up Peg Art game. Oh, and also we have Hotshot turn up as well, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
But Prime gets a call. The call is from Prowl, and boy is he pissed. Prowl has a go at Prime over his recent conduct. Prowl is of the belief that Prime should take command, that he should rule his people. At the moment, he's seeing from the vids, from the comments from people, and from the network that Prowl has always had, that Starscream is in command and Prime is merely following. And you can understand as well why Prowl is making this point, because Prime looks weak, and he seems to have the inability to challenge choices that are being made around him. Now, Prime cuts Prowl off here with repeated assurances that the situation is under control, in a monotone voice, repeating the same sentence. But he doesn't give Prowl any word on the fact that the Enigma of Combination is there, that Superion is up, and that Menasor had rejoined itself. Now, if that isn't bad enough, he barely finished the call, puts it down, only to be verbally slapped by Windblade, who comments that he had blatantly lied. Which again is another nod to Punishment, because Prime stated at the end of that Autobot leaders do not lie, that he does not lie. And here he is, guiding Prowl the wrong direction about what's going on here. And Prime's apparent stupidity doesn't stop there, because if Prowl knew about Starscream's space bridge, then surely he would have known about Superion. Surely he would have known at least a little bit about the Enigma of Combination. And of course he does, and he's furious that Prime won't do anything or trust him to act, and it's that moment that pushes him to take charge, and he contacts his bot on the inside in Cybertron. Whilst this is going on, in Circuit's broadcast at the bottom of the page, the cons, as I mentioned, were spreading the message, and they're doing it in a wonderful way, because many of them, let's face it, are an underclass. Decepticons, underclass. The ones that are honest and true to the cause have struggled against the ruling elite, the ones who have more resources, who have the luxury. Well, of course, Caminus has had nothing, and the whole population is struggling. And so you're seeing already that the cons are finding it quite easy to spread their word. And Ironhide looks as though he swallowed battery acid when he's asked to comment on that. So guys, now that I've finally gotten through that page and made some sense, Gruffy, the cons are spreading the word, thanks to your friend Sparkstalker.
Yeah.
And yeah, Prowl and Prime are slowly gearing up for their fight that we've thought has been coming for a long time.
There's 2 sections of dialogue here which there's actually 3 sections of dialogue here which I absolutely adore. You've got the bit with Sparkstalker, and I swear it's not just because it's Sparkstalker, but because you get a lovely look at the eyes on the ground. I'll be clear the Decepticon to destroy the social hierarchy. Now we got a new one with a space bridge and the Combiner. Not much as little guys can do against that. That is so cool. It's so nice to see the escalating Transformers war technology from the ground view of one of the I don't want to say also rams, but that's what the Phycons are. They're the guys who never make it past meters. That's what I want to see. This is the type of thing that I love seeing, that Barber brings, the type of thing that you don't often see in Transformers comics. Another thing that I absolutely adore is Prowl's rant. Because Prowl's not wrong. Prowl's right. And I never thought I'd ever say that sentence. Prowl is the one with the upper hand in this argument. If Starscream has a space bridge, he's got access to the entire galaxy. This is everything we've ever fought against. This is the cornerstone of a new Cybertronian empire with Starscream in charge. If we don't stop this, the galaxy falls. He's absolutely right. Prime is in the wrong. Prime, who throughout Windblade I was trying to work out, is Prime trying to maneuver himself into a new political position of strength? No. Prime doesn't actually know what the hell he's doing.
Is it because he's not the leader?
I don't know if he's not the leader or if the world's changed so much from that he doesn't know how to adapt anymore, which is a strange thing to do when you're the leader of a transforming race of robots. I think he's so out of his depth here that he can't reconnect to the politician that he once was. Yeah. He's too used to being the warrior. And of course, the Wasbinator is confused. Why are you nice to Wasbinator? Which made me giggle until I was nearly sick. But there's a lot going on in these pages, which just bubbling just below the surface, which I absolutely adore. It's we spoke about it a lot before, how one of Barber's strengths is subtly guiding you to look at elements of the transform that you don't normally look at. And this happens here with the Sparkstalker. It's subtly guiding you to look at Prime's position, his position of pretending to have strength, when the reality is that his pillars are crumbling, and they're crumbling fast. If anything, Prowl is in a position now to swoop in and make a massive grab for power.
Yeah. And
nobody wants that. If there's one person you want in charge less than Starscream, it's Prowl. Because Prowl has acted very rationally in madcap for months. And now the tables appear to have turned slightly. Prowl's the one coming from an area of sense and logic, and Prime is acting way out of character. Nothing he's doing seems to be... It's probably making sense to him from his point of view, as he's trying desperately to keep up, but he's doing anything to help his cause. If anything, he's supporting Starscream more than he should be, purely through inaction and ridiculous decision-making.
Yeah. I mean, Andrew, what do you think of this? And also, as I add to the list of things as well Prime's done, is that he's hacking off the main religious representative of a new colony.
Well, I will actually sit now and disagree entirely with what you've just said there, Gruffy. No, Prime sees the big picture more than Prowl does. Prowl comes in. Prowl has a point. I will concede that. Starscream having access to a space bridge is a threat. However, what position of power or authority does Prowl have towards from Cybertronians in general? None, because they all know what he's capable of. Prowl comes in all guns blazing. War kicks off again. Prime knows that. Prime knows any action to stop Starscream, he brings the war back. He cannot do that. He's seeing the bigger picture, which is, I know I can beat Starscream. I know I will get the upper hand. I have to wait. I have to do it in a way that will lead to the minimum loss of lives. Prowl doesn't care. Prowl's already calculated what acceptable losses are. Remember, the undercurrent throughout Prowl, through obviously since the tail end of All Hail Megatron, is no, he's been looking at acceptable losses and collateral damage throughout the entire war. He looks at how many people he can sacrifice to get his goal. Prime's never about that. And also, Prime's not a politician. IDW Prime's never been a politician. He was a beat cop who went beyond it. He just sees deep down, Starscream's a pep. He's not a political operator, which is why he got so effortlessly exposed. Because let's face it, there's not been... We obviously are conflating a little bit with the Marvel Prime, who is a consummate politician. This is not a politician. The IDW war has been portrayed as a very protracted war with very rigidly defined rules of engagement. Megatron is arguably the politician out of that dynamic, as has been portrayed. This is not a Prime that's au fait with politics at all. Hence why he is making those mistakes that a political operator wouldn't, because he would know how to deflect that but at the same time buttering up the Camions and still sort of pandering to them. This Prime doesn't have that skill set, and it shows. Hence why, absolutely, he's pissed off. But Prime has no power base, but Prowl doesn't either. Prowl's power base consists of the other 5 idiots that team up with him. Everybody on that ship hates him. You can tell.
Yeah.
It's like they all know. Prowl has nothing. He's not seen short term. He's seen sort of a medium term goal. But Prime has seen the much bigger picture, which is what is the direction to be? What to do? And Prime knows ultimately if he takes any direct action, he's lost already. The minute he does that, from any position of, until it's proved that Starscream's behind anything or has done anything, Prime challenges Starscream, Prime's lost. And he'll have no support. So this Prime is going in from the only option he can do, which is it's containing the damage, building the case, and eventually he'll get his guy. This is a beat cop, just extrapolated to one who's obviously been in military service and then back out of it. But it's from that position. There's no political savvy, and I agree absolutely, and it's why he's sort of offending the Camions. But that is this Prime. He's not a politician, and I actually think it will be the Decepticons that undermine Starscream. Again, the bit you mentioned about Sparkstalker, the telling thing is, he became a Decepticon to destroy the social hierarchy. Now we've got a new one, a combiner. Starscream's just the current power structure. They've just, the Autobot sort of domination's gone, but Starscream's in his place. But he's no different to what their goals were.
Yeah, he's no different to how things were back in the day of Nova Prime.
Sentinel Prime and
Sentinel Prime.
And all that. So it'll be those guys that actually probably will start doing some damage. I mean, ultimately, that's probably how it will come down, or they'll have a telling part to play. Probably not Darkstalker directly, although I can hear you and you're wanting that desperately. But I don't think it'll be him directly. Yeah. But Prowl's absolutely got no credibility, no authority whatsoever. And it's just seen by the fact that what Jetfire just basically is watching while he's kind of having that conversation. You kind of know he's just like, idiot.
Yeah.
He's gone. It's gone.
The problem with Prime that I have with this is it comes out of the Titty series, the Monstrosity, Autocracy, Primacy, is that Prime does have the right end game. He knows what he wants to achieve, and he is going out for a goal. The problem is, as you said, he's not savvy enough to keep people on board until he does that. And he seems to then keep people in the dark or play a role so well of the confused, bumbling, doesn't know what he's doing leader, and then at the last minute goes, ha, see, I did put you in your place. And then he turns around and half his allies in that series just buggered off because they'd lost faith and didn't realise that he was up to anything. And I think in this issue you get this, he deals with 2 people at 2 key points, and he doesn't reassure them in any particularly strong way that, look, just trust in me to do what I do. Which after millions of years of being the Autobot leader, maybe he's just taken that for granted. Maybe Prowl, he just assumes that Prowl, let's face it, Prowl's worked for him for so long, surely he's going to just agree with what he says and trust him to use his judgment. But Prowl he's been jacked up by his recent experiences. He's basically reverted to teenager mode. He's doing stuff impulsively. He wants to jump ahead and do this, that, and the other. Prime at that point would need to go, look, slow down and really trust me. Not give a blank answer. Just trust me. Because you can see what's happening. You can see that it's prompting Prowl. Unless Prime turns around at the end of this and goes, ha, I knew my vague comments would make you jump to the offensive and come all the way over here and defeat somebody that I don't know has turned up yet. I just think that's where Prime's failing.
Prime's failing is to see that the game's they're no longer playing this long drawn out game of chess. It's now something more akin to Monopoly. He's still playing the battle. He's still playing the war that it was. The Autobots versus Decepticons within clear rights, and then he's doing the shadowy, underhanded things. Whilst everybody else sees that this isn't a war anymore. It's now a power struggle. It's something more akin to the Cold War. between America and Cuba. It's more akin to that than it is the all-out attack in the trenches in Normandy.
I disagree. Prime sees that the game has changed, but the problem is Prime has no authority. Look back to what's happened since the end of Chaos and all that. Prime was the figurehead, rightly or wrongly, that they associated with the war. Prime.
Sorry,
sees,
did I say
sees
Prime? I meant to say Prowl.
Right.
My apologies.
Yeah, no. I think the big Prime is he's not smart.
Mm-hmm.
He's trusted that his friends had some errors of judgment, but will find his way back.
Yeah.
Prime's extended him a faith that Prowl has shown he doesn't deserve, and I think that's his biggest failing. So I don't think he assumes Prowl's going to come back there, because I think that the smackdown that needs to happen has to be quite decisive.
Yeah.
Because Prowl's got to the point, and you can see here, it's just there's no sense of perspective. I mean, Prowl is just seeing that. No, I'm still on a war footing.
Mm-hmm.
He's not. Prime has moved on. Goes, okay, it's a new landscape. It's an entirely different dynamic for the planet. What we're going to do. Prowl, ever since RID, has just been, the agenda really has been still to stop the Decepticons. He's not moved on. There's sort of, again, rather tellingly, not the war's over. But again, obviously we know the Aquitus trials and obviously Tyrese being metal. No war crimes done on either side, or not a lot's been addressed about that. Again, you've got sort of punishment kind of touches on it, that there's been a whole host of mad things happened in the war that we kind of are starting to come to light. But there's neither side's really pushed for accountability. It's kind of like they both agreed the war's over, but neither side's either sort of formally surrendered or formally. Again, the conceit is the Autobots technically won, but no, that's not how wars are won. If I win, then basically everything the loser has is effectively mine, and I'm taking them for war crimes and anything they've done against me.
Mm-hmm.
There's been none of that at all. Again, that's obviously all of the rest of the Cybertronians coming back has kind of put paid to that. But you would think there would have been an undercurrent of both sides kind of going, oh, well, you did this during the war. Yeah, well, that's because you did that. I know a lot of the stuff from the Tiresians has been sort of hidden. And can only come back and bite too much of a really good plot point to not address down the line. But it's just kind of telling that it's not, the war doesn't feel like it's ended. It does feel kind of like it's just on pause.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There is going to be a new dynamic, but it's not how any war, whoever loses sues for peace. It's always usually either a conditional surrender or unconditional surrender. They really just kind of went, let's just stop. Not really that kind of, the war is over, you've lost, we've won. And I think that's probably why Prowl is exactly where he is, because he's not had that moment. In his eyes, and quite literally, the Autobots didn't win that war.
No, the war burnt itself out.
I don't even think it sort of burnt itself out, just kind of,
it reached the point where nobody could swing a punch. The first people to get up, instead of going over to kick the other bodies, got up and went over here and said, well, we must have won then.
I think it was more the case that they, you had a huge event that, I mean, you going back to just before Death of Optimus Prime, you had a huge event which caused both sides to have to team up. Then you had a sort of Megatron in a position, Prime was in a position of power, didn't want it, and then went and did something semi-religious, which every Transformer felt, and they also felt this callback to their home planet, and the planet had been renewed. So they realized that something very, very big had gone down. So if anything, the momentum was with the Autobots. But as you're right, nobody won the war, but it's amazing how, and Barber has pushed this. It's probably the only thing that Barber's pushed. It's staggered as everything else had, as these Hasbro tie-ins have kind of knocked where RID was headed in the early days. But the Autobots have somehow managed to end up with most of the stuff, and the cons are feeling very disenfranchised. Now, whether that's because of their willingness to jump in and help or not, and the fact is as well that there's so many more nails around, and the cons are there and the Autobots, and they can't fight each other because there's a big crowd of individuals in the way who just want to get on and live. And Prime is just... I think he's struggling with that as well, because let's face it, both sides, they're good. I mean, Megatron has gone off on the Lost Light and he's commanding a ship of bots, and it's a finite amount. Whereas Prime is trying to deal with the fact that, yes, he might have been in charge of the Autobots, but he wasn't in charge of Cybertronians. And he's kind of not considered the vast chunk of the planet whilst they've been going off and having their jolly little war.
Yeah, I agree. And it's just also that the fact is, the Decepticons, I think, you get the sense in some of the scenes that we've had in various issues beforehand, is that the ghettos that they formed have been entirely of their own choosing. Because they're so suspicious of what Autobots were before, they can't see that the Autobots under Prime are a different breed from obviously the likes of Nova and Sentinel, that they do believe in their goals, or at least some of them do, obviously Prowl notwithstanding. So they voluntarily kind of went, no, we'll go into the ghetto. It's like, you just think, no, if you went into the bar and saw obviously like Blur and all that just sitting knocking back pints and just enjoying themselves, like, no, good. No, they're not bloodthirsty, come in. But they've kind of voluntarily, and to be fair, there is the indication that some of the surviving Decepticons have survived because of how good they've been there, and obviously the rules of engagement. You get the feeling that whatever code the Autobots might have operated under, the Decepticons are probably a little more laissez-faire with that. So you've got that whole readjusting to civilian life, which, as we've seen from lots and lots of post-Vietnam films from America, is difficult at the best of times. God forbid if you don't have a job, you live in a world that's one point renewed and then turns into some post-apocalyptic shithole in places again. It's like, no, it's just a case of, it's bizarre that the Decepticons are just sort of so utterly rudderless. Yeah. And again, it's the fact telling that none of them have flocked to Starscream either.
No, they're desperate, but they're not that desperate. I think maybe it's because they see that he has turned into what they hated the most. You know, like the Autobot fighters and the likes of Prime, even in the Con's eyes, Prime isn't what's been before. He's not like the previous psychotic Primes. He's not like Zeta. You know, he's not to that level. He's a good guy, and they disagree with him, and they fought a war with him, but he is not advocating genocide of an entire populace. So, if anything, the only person who's actually harking back to the very worst of what Autobots stood for is ironically Starscream. Anyway, hope you're with us at home, folks. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed it. As I said on the More Than Meets the Eye review, I hadn't done one of the main series in a year. So the last time I reviewed an RID was in the heady days at the end of what we would call the first season, before all this Hasbro tie-in stuff started, when John's message of the class war and the oppressions was still very, very vivid. And we had this slow build-up as well, which has kind of been knocked for six in recent issues, which I think gets back on track here, where it's this slow burn build, which I really like with John. But we will keep going, folks. So we then jump to an unknown location on Cybertron, and we join Swindle. Swindle has been taken to shut him up after recent events, as we probably assumed he would be. Starscream is paying a visit as well to this secret unknown jail, but he leaves to ensure that Prime does not get face-to-face time in private with Caminus representatives, because a meeting is coming up. Very quickly, folks, above Swindle's cell, is that who I think it is?
Unsure. I can't really make much out.
It's looking a little bit like Sandstorm.
It's...
What's
Yeah, possibly.
I got... Is it just me, or does the one above is that Rack and Ruin? Because I'm looking at what could be a hammer shape, and that looks like two heads. I think that's Rack and Ruin.
I think it could be.
Ooh. Oh, that's interesting.
Just look at the hammer shape, and the kind of the two could quite easily be. I think that may be Rack and Ruin.
Have a word with Mr. Livio, aren't I?
I can see someone who looks vaguely like Transformers Prime Knockout.
Okay, I'll.
I actually think they're Stunticons.
That wouldn't surprise me because I know I heard some comments. I think it might have been on the Windblade thing where there was some comments about why is Swindle with the Stunticons, and my response to that was, well, he's never been a Stunticon, but he has obviously been integral in putting them together. You know, he's the boss. But I always thought that if Starscream was going to turn, because he was never going to let Swindle get that information and then get away with it. I half expected him, when he was thrown in this cell, to turn around and they go, oh, now that you're so familiar with it, guess what? We're now making you part of one. And that is your punishment.
But it's possible this could be the the Combaticons in there.
And I think that is why he will end up, if they're going to feature the Combaticons in this, I think he will be part of that, and that the line for him will be to basically shut him up.
Yeah. Or it's how they do the breakout.
Oh yeah, true.
Yeah.
Good point. So we have this meeting that Starscream is heading towards, and the build-up to this meeting is actually shown in several different ways over several different formats in the comic. Screamer is fully aware of it, and so he's heading towards it. Rat Trap is hearing about it on the news broadcast, acting on some part of it, and making a choice for himself, making a call. Prime talks about it to the media and opens up the event to the news team, so allowing them to follow him. And he's still looking as though he's not entirely sure of what's going on. He's still looking a little bit weak. And all of this leads up to the moment where Prime turns up and gives a speech. And by this point, the camerons are there, the press are there, and Starscream is there. And his speech goes as follows. I've been thinking long and hard as we stand on the precipice of a new era. One must consider everything. Some friends of mine have encouraged me to take an active role. Some are worried about change. As a species, despite our physiology, change has come hard to us, yet it is inevitable. It is called progress. And what is important is that we are open, transparent, and we all have a say in how things change. As our lost colonies arrive home, the answer isn't to annex them, but to join them. Representatives from Cybertron, Caminus, and the other colony worlds, as we make contact, will combine together into a council of worlds. All will have an equal voice. This is what you explained to me, isn't it, Starscream? And Starscream can only growl. He has been played. And as the media have covered the event,
Booyah.
he can't reverse it without considerable damage. Andrew, it's great. It's great to see Prime doing this. Great to see that he's got the smarts and he's played it. I still wish he told Prowl a bit more that he was doing this.
Yep.
I think there is an element there that I know he's extended to Prowl the faith in terms of to get better, but he doesn't trust Prowl. That's quite clear. And he knows Prowl has agendas within agendas.
True.
And what he was thinking of the best of his friend there, which is, I've told you I've got it. Let me get it. And again, ironically, we know that Prowl will just bring the whole thing coming round to everyone's ears with his stupidity as it'll come on. But no, absolutely perfect. Plays a blinder. Again, while he's not the political operator, again, does well there.
And he's led as well. He's effectively led everything. Everyone is walking away going, Prime has decided, Prime's done it, and Prime is doing it without being a leader, which is really nicely done.
And will probably repair some of the damage he may have done earlier with the Camions, with the Mistress of the Flame.
Sorry, I'm still thinking Battlestar, because it's the end of the Battlestar intro where they go, we're searching for the final one, a place called Earth. And it's like, well, you've kind of got that one sorted already, Prime, so I don't know what's next. But anyway, we end the issue in the space bridge room, and Rat Trap is working the control panel, And Cybertron's single worst source of security breaches at the moment reveals another visitor, which is clearly not being signed in. I mean, nobody is monitoring this place. It's a group of bots, a team. They stroll down into the room as Rat Trap admits to the newcomers that he can smell a winning side a mile off. And that is why he has pitched in with Prowl. Prowl, sporting red eyes, leads the Constructicons, and while he clearly instates his intention to head off Screamer's plans, he does admit, Rat Trap, if Cybertron has to die for the sake of the galaxy, who am I to argue with progress? So, Gruffy, one step closer to war, but in terms of Prime and Prowl, but in this issue, a fair way along with the plot, and lots of nice juicy subtexts and subplots to go along with it.
There's lots of very interesting stuff going on in this issue. And what I'm really pleased about is that Combiner Wars, as yet, has not been about combiners punching each other. We've had a little bit of combiners punching each other, but that's been one issue out of 3. Thank God. That's what I'm saying about that. Thank God. This is political maneuvering. It's lots of people trying to start conflict as a means to an end in a society that's sick to death of conflict.
Yeah.
And I find that fascinating. It's lots of little parts talking about a giant machine. And the problem is, when it comes to the Cybertronians, that machine is always going to be a machine of war. And to me, that is a million times more interesting. And it's a Barber's strength more than 2 guys punching each other to sell more toys.
Yeah.
And I love it. It's not the best work the Barber's ever done, far from it, but it's laying the groundwork for something that could easily be the best work he's ever done. It's little things like, however, right, I'm going to throw this out into the open. Anybody else really not understanding what the hell Rat Trap's on about, or Rat Trap's trying to do?
He seems to be just at the moment, just a floating character who's kind of directionless, who has access to certain knowledge, but he's not. He's one of those characters that he seems to exist to allow Prowl to turn up, or to overhear a plot point of Starscream.
Mm-hmm.
He's just.
He's a plot device.
And that to me is it. I don't think there's anything special with him, but I've never been a huge fan of Rat Trap, so it's never been something that I've particularly noticed.
He's just, again, another. I think he's just a snivelling, scheming toady. I think he's there to show that Leica Trap's that he's gravitated towards Starscream because he's not a million miles away from him.
Yeah.
Again, and no, all he's doing is he can see that Starscream's been overreaching, and is now at the point that he's just seen him get played by Prime. And you know what Starscream's going to do is Starscream is going to go along with what Prime said in public, but it's going to do absolutely everything in its power to weasel and undermine it. And that's going to, Rat Trap's kind of gone, that's going to come out. There'll be too many eyes on you. While I'm here, I've had a cushy gig. I've been getting things, but when it all goes to pot, I'm going down with you. And he's jumping ship.
Mm-hmm. There's something about Rat Trap being an agent of Prowl as well that it doesn't sit right with me. It feels too much like, well, we need a way to get Prowl onto Cybertron. Rat Trap will do.
I think it can work because, again, look at it. Prowl, obviously being the position he's been in, would bound to have had informants and the like throughout the time. But I think we need, maybe we'll get a little bit of how they've become acquainted. But I think because there's not really been any interaction between the two of them, that kind of comes off. But you get the feeling that Prowl's got this network of people he's leaned on, he's got dirt on, he knows he can call in favours for or from, that Rat Trap's one of dozens, hundreds, and this is now the time to call in that marker. But yeah, without sort of, I think it's just the fact that the two have had no real interaction before. It just does come off as that this is allowing us to move from plot point C to plot point D.
Yeah, I think I think that's very much it. I wouldn't have minded so much if there had been something hinting at a relationship between the two of them earlier on. It wouldn't have to have been much, just something. But the grand reveal here of Rattrap letting Prowl onto Cybertron doesn't feel organic, which is a shame because a lot of the rest of the issue does. A lot of the rest of the issue flows really nicely.
I'm not too bothered that Rattrap's involved. I think it's getting Prowl into play. I think is the best thing for the issue, and getting him a little bit closer, and they can then spark off amongst themselves. It's nice though, throughout the whole of our idea really, we have seen a couple of Decepticon leaders. We're going back to Ratbat. Ratbat was a leader that came out of the rubble of the cons being pitched there, and then was taken out of service. The cons there on Cybertron at the moment would give their eye teeth for someone like Ratbat, who was actually worried about the cons in the city and in their living conditions. And then they've now got a leader who's just like, well, I couldn't care. I'm on a different planet, and I know it's all going to hell in a handbasket, and that's the reason why I'm staying off planet in Galvatron. So you can understand why they're so dispossessed. But Combiner Wars seems to be just Autobots versus Autobots. It's like the Autobot structure is struggling to find its footing. And although we've had a Decepticon-based Combiner, I think this is going to come down a lot to different iterations of Autobot Combiners pummeling the bejeez out of each other.
No, I agree. I think you're right. But again, we kind of touched on that. Look at the Decepticons haven't engaged in the post-war Cybertron at all. So we kind of talked about that. They're not involved. They are on the fringes. So you can see that's why when they're kind of the ones that come to kind of rescue or put themselves about are kind of very much sort of outliers. So yeah, it is probably going to be again, or whatever Combiner Swindle gets involved in. But yeah, it's pretty much going to be the Autobot ones because it is sort of Starscream and at the moment is pet. Obviously, he's going to turn, but are we going to see Prowl and Starscream team up in a horrible, horrible marriage of convenience?
No, I don't think so.
Prowl's going to go full on mad though, but then, remember.
Oh, God, yeah.
But again, he's going to come under fire from his own side. And how much of Prowl is going to be left at the end of it? Because again, we've kind of been speculating as we've gone on that is Scrapper actually dead, or is his personality somewhere in the nebulous sort of gestalt mind that is Devastator? Is he being rewritten each time he combines?
I can answer that question using a quote from this very issue. Well, I don't want Starscream starting an empire any more than anybody else does. Anyways, you're Prowl. You probably got more of a deliberate plan with a gazillion moving parts, and Starscream won't ever see it coming. 6 moving parts is all I need.
Yeah.
That's not a Prowl answer.
Yeah.
That's
but
not Prowl.
It's just as well the eyes. I mean, it's a reflection of your spark, according to James Roberts. So therefore, if your eyes change, there could be a myriad of reasons for that. There can be design choices, but there can also be a change to your spark. And yeah, I totally agree. I think that considering the last time the Devastator was whole, one of their members had already perished. But they still combined, and I get the feeling it was a manual combination. He had to be changed into a foot, and he was dragged along the ground. But at the same time, he was still there. So I reckon, once they decided to split up after that, they probably took as much of Scrapper as they could out of him. And I wouldn't be surprised if at some point, and I really hope that this isn't a time when Prime uses the Matrix, but if there is a way that they strip out Scrapper, I'd be really interested to see what's left of Prowl.
Yeah. I don't know, would it even be Prime? Would it not be? Because again, like you've the nations of like burning, and maybe not be the Mistress of the Flame that does something. Because again, purifying through fire. I mean, we can how many religious inquisitions have used that as a method? So it wouldn't be beyond the realms of possibility that they'll purify his spark through fire, or whatever flame is on canvas.
It'd be nice actually. We've had this iteration of Prowl for a while, but it'd almost be nice to see the old purely factual clinical.
I don't think we'll ever get that one back, but we kind of, again, our one of our sort of running commentaries on Thing is we push Prowl along, but it's got to bottom out before we get him back, or he starts to get better, or does fully commit to being the complete dish. And it's kind of dragged on a bit. It does actually seem that we kind of talked about it when Combiner War was about to happen, is that this is going to derail everything and be a 4-month pause. And actually, it's done enough. It's significant with Prowl in just in this issue alone. It's really put us to account where we know, and again, because we've seen solicits, and hopefully the cover is representative of something that's going to happen in the issue, and Prime and Prowl are going to have a proper set too.
It'd be good. Just before I ask for your votes as well, guys. Gruffy, what do you think of? We'll start with you, Olivier's artwork for this issue, because again, I know he's ultimate Marmite dude, but at the same time, I've noticed as well in certain there definitely, with this whole Combiner Wars thing, there definitely seems to be a little bit more sharp line geometry to some of the work.
There is some really, really nice work in here. I actually really like the Rat Trap transforming panels. Because when's the last time we saw a multi-panel transformation of somebody? It feels like it's been a while.
Yep.
However, I don't know what's happening with Rat Trap's face. It's then again, I don't think that's a problem with Livio's work as such. I think the design for the Rat Trap in IDW so far hasn't been consistent. It's kind of oozed all over the place, and it hasn't really worked as such. But for the most part, Livio's work has been pretty damn good. I love his use of shadows in this. He's really gone out of his way to do a lot of shadowing, especially for Prowl's face.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Prowl that's constantly in shadow, which works really nicely. And the way that Livio draws Superion is top-notch gorgeous. The sense of scale and weight that comes from Superion is absolutely superb. Though the four-part thing of Starscream talking to the Cybertronians, not entirely sure what's going on behind him.
Go on.
There's like a line of colour that appears to be coming straight out the top of his head, and it keeps changing colours, and I don't know what that's meant to be. I'm unsure of what that is, and I found myself being distracted by that.
No, that's a good point. I mean, little thing like Superion suddenly turning up behind him as well.
But that's what it is. It's Superion coming into place.
Ah, right.
Look at it. It's because it's the different colours. You can see it as part of the trim of Superion. Because look at it. The grey bits of the back are obviously the bits of the back of his big shoulder. God, they're called. Normal colour, red for Superion, the gold from his part of his leg, and then white as he's standing in between or away from that. It's just Superion coming into place.
Yes. Because I was seeing that as part of a wall behind him.
Oh.
Right, that makes a lot more sense. Aha. Well done, Mr. Turnbull.
300 continuity points. Right, so guys, what would you give this, Andy first, what would you give this as a rate out of 5?
So I'm going to give this a good solid 4 out of 5. I really enjoyed it. Again, the only criticism I have, again, is just the Rat Trap Prowl thing.
Yeah.
A little bit. It's convenience, which you kind of have to do with these event books a little bit as well. So it just kind of, had there been something, as I said, the choice is organic. It didn't feel organic. It kind of, but it's fantastic because we talked about it as like Prime is not a political operator, it's not a political operator. He isn't. All out, but when he has to, boy plays a blinder. The narrative of the video footage from Circuit's great. Gets some nice info dumps without clogging up the story and allowing for a lot of different points of view. I actually think some of the art choices in that are actually better than the main stuff. Just Spark Soccer is fantastic. It's all for such an expressionless face. There's a lot of character in it. It just works. Just the angling where he is, the direction of his eyes. It's really good use of body language. Even just Ironhide, just on the page where you've got Fat Tanker on him, just got Ironhide talking to him, just sort of looking dead at the camera. Just it's a little change in the mouth movement. Really nice. Again, I know that sort of the opening fiery thing's the big showy one. That's like, oh, that's fine. And it is very well done, not to put it there, but it's the little touches that, again, I'm always of the opinion with a comic is nice art is all well and good, but you need to be able to tell a story before. Rendering's all well and good, but if you can't tell a story, I'm not interested in how pretty the pictures are. And Livio's storytelling, this is fantastic. Just the little beats, just where characters are placed. Again, as I said, the multi-panel transformation sequence is nice. It's a great touch. Prowling being in shadow a lot. Again, he's not the start when he's talking to Prime, and it's like he's all in bright light. He's still there. Oh look, when he makes his decision to turn to the dark side, shadow. It's never clearly seen.
It's not just when he turns to the dark side. If you remember right back at the beginning of the issue, when he's in Gestalt mode, when he's devastated, he's in the shadow as well.
Yep, so just a
it's
really nice use, whether these are in the script or just Livio's flourishes, whatever, they're really nice, and they just little subtle touches that hammer home the plot point. Again, the artist rendition, brilliant. Obviously, I'd like it for just to be a one-off gag, because I think it would wear thin if we got it a lot. Again, similar the way to Thundercracker's screenplay was kind of grating towards the end because it'd been flogged to death, but just a one-off, brilliant. Just a nice touch, because it's so utterly ridiculous, out of context, shouldn't have happened. It's just, but yeah, why not? Lovely little touch. And again, because it's quite an ominous and foreboding issue, it's the little light touches that just make the issue work. Otherwise, it just we're on a complete downer, folks.
Nice. Gruffy.
There's not much else I can add to that. Firm believer that a good artist can tell the story without words. You don't need to have the dialogue to get the feel and the understanding of where a story goes. And Livio's done that with this really, really well. The story itself, Barber has thrown so many wonderful little bits into here. Starscream's speech to the Cybertronians, for example, it's so good because it's so Starscream. It's not a great speech, but it's Starscream's character through and through. And then in the background, you've just got Wheeljack ripping the wording apart because it's such a poorly written speech. It's lots of things that Starscream will have heard in the past, and then he's just thrown together. Lots of metaphors that don't make sense. It's perfect Starscream, absolutely perfect. I would say the Mistress of Flame is the writing falls down a little bit, because as much as you get the idea of this religious leader taking a... No, I'll rephrase that. You've got this people's leader, and it feels like a head of church rather than a head of state. But in this case, it is a head of church and state.
Yeah.
Her blind devotion to Prime doesn't give you anything else of a character. Now, hopefully that's something that's going to change as time goes on. But she doesn't really do much for me, although gorgeous design. Absolutely gorgeous design. The Prime and Prowl relationship is coming to a head. You can feel it in the water now. And it's about time. To be honest with you, the Prowl-Prime relationship has gone on for too long. It needs to be solved, and I'm glad to see that the end game has started to gear up now. I'm going to have to go with Mr. Turnbull and say this is a solid 4. This is really good stuff. There's still room for improvement, but come on, Barber. Let's smack this out the park.
That Longtooth.
Yeah, and Longtooth. Longtooth on the... Well, to be honest with you, right, we've got Circuit, and I have gone from liking Circuit because he's an action master to this issue liking Circuit for being his own character. Yeah. Circuit's brilliant. Circuit is absolutely superb. Love him. And it's all down to the dialogue and the words he uses and how he talks. He talks like some kind of really, really dour, sad BBC reporter.
He's another faction, the press. Which, at the moment, let's face it, none of the other factions can do anything against, apart from violence. because he's from a completely different arena. But yeah, you're right. It's another aspect.
Yeah. Who would have thought that one of my favorite characters coming out of a Transformers comic would be the guy who's talking into a TV screen?
Oh, well, I think so.
That's
Your
amazing.
top three characters for this issue might include at least two characters that you never would have even expected to see in a comic, let alone turn up in one issue and have that sort of impact.
Yep.
Honestly, did you write this issue?
Shh, I'm actually John Barber. Shh.
Okay. I'm gonna give this 4.5.
Okay.
I think the end of the first season of RID was very much like Battlestar Galactica, like the recent series of Battlestar Galactica, in that when you had those final few issues and everything came together, the final page or two were like punches in the gut. The writing had set you up so well for this story, and it had taken its time, but you were completely invested in these characters. And so when the punches came, when you had characters either get killed or suddenly go to war or to show their true allegiance, you were shocked, you were stunned. And then we've had this period of RID where it just seems to have meandered along. It seems like they've held off plots or stories because they've been waiting for another tie-in, for this to happen, for that to happen. And it's not been good. It feels sometimes like John has taken on the Hasbro-orientated stuff to allow James free reign, which is great for him, but it's tough for RID, or Transformers as we now know it. And I mean, maybe it's luck, but I'm reviewing this issue, and it's the first issue in a long time where it feels like we've got that early John Barber Transformers back, where everything is about the politics, where you get every side of an argument, every perspective in an issue. Even after previous issues when things have been a little bit woolly, everything comes together and works perfectly. The idea of this media narrative is wonderful. It gives you all the explanation you could need, and it just gives you this extra look at every single character and just gives them that extra bit of detail. Plus, the big bonus is that because of that narrative, John needs to tell the story in a compacted space. Admittedly, this is 22 pages, not 20 that Transformer comics are all at the moment, but it means that Livio has to work in this wide letterbox format, and we know he's done 3 series in this small format. I mean, the first 2 series were, the digital 1-2 pages at a time, compacting everything down into almost mosaic style pages. So if you say to Livio, I want you to do 7 panels on a page and they're all tiny letterboxes, he will milk every section of that letterbox and give you exactly what you want. And because of the combination of the tight story and the great art, I think this is a 4.5. And I think 4.5, a little bit of that mark is because I'm hopeful that this will now take this rigid course going forward. And hopefully, even though it will display Transformer combiners and it will maybe sell some toys, above all, it will tell a good story. And by the way, I should say as well, of course, this is not just written by John. Of course, it's John and Magritte. And I think between them, if they can, gel this story together and get the right balance of selling the toys and selling the characters, I think we're in for an absolute winner. There we go, gents. Is there anything else you would like to say?
I agree with your points about John sort of being tied into the Hasbro thing. It does feel kind of like you can make the easy comparison that RID at the start of it was very much like Budiansky's run on Marvel. At the start, he had his core cast, he could do with what he wanted. Moves on, Hasbro say, we need this, we need that, we need that.
Yeah.
And it suffers, whereas James gets to do the Simon Furman thing of, I'm off on the edges, here's my toys I can play with, I can go and be as crazy as I want. And you kind of, so we've kind of talked about a lot in our ideas that you can transform what was our ideas really is the main book, let's be honest, in terms of should be the proper one. So it's the one that Hasbro would have probably had to interfere with a bit, because they've obviously, at the end of the day, yes, it's a comic, but it's a comic from a licensed property. If the license doesn't exist, the comics generally don't exist. So they will sell top. I didn't complain about it too much as a kid when I was buying the comic, and then I want that toy. So, but it's picked up again, as you say. Hopefully, this is going to kickstart. Again, I don't want it to go back to what RID was, because the whole point is should really be pushing forward. But there does seem to be at the end of Combiner Wars, we're going to have obviously a different playing field again. We now have our 13 colonies to play with, which obviously widens the scope. And obviously, this is the book that's going to tackle it. All that and Windblade, because obviously, Lost Light's way doing its own thing. So it'll be interesting to see what happens afterwards. But I'm greatly encouraged if we can draw a line under some of the things that have been dragging along for a while, and then push on with something new.
Yeah, and I think, let's face it, integral to that will be a Scrounge miniseries.
Whoa. Scrounge and Longtooth.
Scrounge and Longtooth on some kind of road trip to find your girlfriend.
Scrounge doesn't need to find a girlfriend. Scrounge is Scrounge. They'll be flocking to him.
That's true. That's true.
It can just be 22 pages of them just sitting talking. It'd be amazing.
In the background, of course, of that will be Piano Bot, because we all like Piano Bot, and Paddles will be their security chief.
And they've got the kangaroo.
And they've got
it's in a little space. It's got a spacesuit.
So on that wonderful team up note, which we can probably expect as a BotCon exclusive comic for next year. You never know, they've done worse. We shall leave you all. Thanks, gents, for joining on with this. Now, where can we find you on the web? Andrew, do you want to start first? Where can we catch up with what you're up to?
Mostly at the moment, Twitter, Andrew D. Turnbull. Daily Straxis is obviously, it's on hiatus for about a year. I'm currently working on things for Auto Assembly, putting together my own for sale at Glasgow in July. So most of the time you'll either find me on Twitter or the drawing board cursing the scripts I've been given, because none of them have robots in them. What's that all about?
Crazy. Gruffy.
Oh God, here we go.
Okay.
You can find
top five.
Crime Watch, the Old Bailey,
underneath your bed, waiting, always waiting, constantly waiting.
Too many dead here for you.
Jesus, Turnbull, there's stuff down here I didn't know it still existed. I mean, this one's from 1984. You can find me on Twitter at Grufflock or at The Old Oil House. That's 2 Twitters, so that's 2 down. You can find all of the Old Oil House stuff at theoldoilhouse.co.uk. I would go there because there's loads of stuff coming, including British sci-fi, which is a fascinating series of articles, and I actually look forward to getting them each month because, my God, they're really cool to read through. You can also find the Facebook group of the Old Oil House if you go to Facebook and search for the Old Oil House on Facebook. It's a public group. Feel free to come and join the madness. This week, we've decided that September the 30th is Skeletor Day. Be warned. Other than that, you can find me waiting, constantly waiting underneath your bed. You can also find me at deliosuk.weebly.com on the October Toys forums, and my God, weeping because I've taken too much on.
Are you done?
No, there's so many more.
You can find me editing Underbase podcasts, recording Underbase podcasts, hosting Underbase podcasts, and suffering Underbase podcasts.
I feel you've got something to do with the Underbase.
Yeah, apparently so. As the people who dread hearing me start another podcast this month.
What is this Underbase you speak of?
I have no idea. So, folks,
hang on, isn't the Underbase where they had that amazing Beast Hunters reviews that went on, along with Rage of the Dinobots?
Yeah. They also had the Man of Iron.
Yes. 3 things that are worth listening to.
So, on that promotional note, thank you very much, gents.
It's safe to say that Gruffy will not be back next episode. As resignations go, that's splendid.
I think my first review on Transformers has been a resounding success. And yes, if you wish to come back, we'll be back here next month for more Combiner War madness. So until then, folks, have a good one and take care. Goodbye.
Farewell.
Bye.
Oh, beautiful, Gruffy. Beautiful.
I'll get somebody at least talking.